This is now my third weekend with you all at the parish here, and I've been here for 3 weeks, but I've only been ordained a deacon for 5 weeks. On June 14th, I was ordained back at my home parish where I grew up in St. Mary's, Ontario, down near London. This parish, this church, Holy Name of Mary, was a church where I was baptized, where I received my first Holy Communion, where I was confirmed, and where I was ordained a deacon. I grew up there with my parents and my 5 brothers and lived what seemed like the normal Catholic life. You go to Mass on Sundays, you pray grace before meals, and you pray the rosary. And I happened to go to a Catholic school as well. It wasn't until I was in high school that I determined there was a bit more to the faith. It wasn't then until I had a personal encounter with Jesus which had me make the faith my own, where it was a day-to-day thing, not a week-by-week obligation. And it was that encounter that allowed me to recognize that God had an amazing plan for my life and that I could trust Him. And because of that, I was able to discern this call to the priesthood. I'm so grateful to be able to reflect on all of this leading up to my ordination because it was at my home parish. But because it was there, I also did a lot of the coordinating for my ordination myself. It involved planning all the events and hosting a lot of people that were coming in from out of town. And in particular, there was a lot of the Companions of the Cross, the religious community that Father Michael, Father Tim, and myself are a part of. And so I made arrangements for the 9 seminarians that were coming into town to stay at 2 of my relatives' houses. And in order to ease that burden, because sometimes hosting people can be a burden, I tried making a lot of the arrangements, and I was like Martha, running around, trying to make it as easy as possible, finding somebody to help clean, somebody to prepare food, and trying to make sure the seminarians were well off. And so after the arrangements were made, though, I kind of just took the step back. And the seminarians arrived on the Thursday evening. My aunt and my uncle had prepared a dinner for them to eat, and I just kind of let it play out. That evening, when they were spending their time together, I received 2 text messages. The first from one of the seminarians, and he just remarked that, "Carl, you have the chillest family in North America." And then 10 minutes later, I got a text from my uncle, which said, "These guys are a very fun group of characters. It's really good to have laughter in the house. Thanks for sharing them with us." And so these 2 texts turned my anxiety and my fretting about, is it going to be good enough? Or is it going to be a burden? Is it going to be worth it? To knowing that everyone was happy, both guests and hosts were blessed with mutual joy, mutual laughter, and mutual fun because of this opportunity that my aunt and uncle had to host and the seminarians had to stay with them. I myself have traveled a fair bit throughout seminary, throughout some missionary work that I've done, and so I've visited a lot of people and been hosted by a lot of people, and I've come to realize that there's kind of like 3 types of hosts that you can have. There's those who go over the top, I would say, so like they make sure that the baseboards are clean, that the walls are washed, there's a 7-course meal prepared, and your drink will never be empty. And then there's those who love to host but would rather not have to deal with the difficulty of preparing their own house. And it's like, we'll meet you at this restaurant at this time, and we're going to have a great time. And then there's those, usually with a few kids, who they just invite you into the chaos. And so you come into their house and there's toys everywhere because they just know that if they clean them up, they're still going to be out 20 minutes later. There's kids crying. There's a ton of tasks on the go. but you're welcomed into the happenings of their family life. And in all three of these categories, I still think the essentials of what it means to host people is conveyed. Essentially, hosting others is making people know that they are seen, that they're known, and that they're loved. And so I ask, what kind of host are you? How do you make people feel that they're seen, known, or loved? How do you invite people into your life? God provides a bit of an answer to that today in our readings, but he started it, I think, last week with the parable of the Good Samaritan. Jesus taught us to recognize who our neighbor is, who it is that we're supposed to invite into our life, who we're supposed to be hospitable to. And that's anyone, even if they're outside of who we would normally associate with. And so this week, we want to further see how we're supposed to express that hospitality to the people in our lives. And so from our reading from Genesis, our first reading, 3 men come to Abraham and Sarah, and they come in the heat of the day. So they're desperate. It's hot out. And Abraham expresses his hospitality in a way that was common. Like this was the common way throughout the ancient Near East, in which we see in the Old Testament and the New Testament. He graciously received these strangers as guests, and when he saw them, he ran to meet them. He paid respects to them and welcomed them to stay with him. He washed their feet and told them to rest in the shade. He then had Sarah prepare some loaves and cakes. He went and took curds and milk and slaughtered a calf and had it prepared for them. When I read that, it's wow, radical hospitality at the drop of a hat. This is a culture of hospitality being played out. And in the gospel, we see Jesus goes to the house of Martha and Mary. Martha's a type 1 host, running around making sure everything is prepared in order to receive Jesus. But Mary recognizes that Jesus is already there, that Jesus is there in the house and needs to be hosted. And so she sits at his feet, paying attention to him, letting him know that he's seen, known, loved. And Jesus commends Mary for not being concerned about the appearance of hospitality, but it seems like actually inviting Jesus into her life, giving her time to Jesus. And within Scripture, there's many places that the command to be hospitable is seen. We can read in the letter to the Hebrews that the author says, "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unknowingly." I think this happens, but I think it's also pointing back to the reality of what Abraham experienced when he hosted angels, I think unknowingly at first. It also follows the command of Christ in Matthew 25:35, which talks about when you welcome strangers, you welcome Christ. For when you do this to the least of your brothers and sisters, you do it to me, he says. And so how do we host people? I know that many of you or all of you already know how to be hospitable. Father Michael and I were welcomed here 2 weekends ago with ice cream, many smiling faces, handshakes, and promises to pray for us. And we're extremely grateful for that. I think it might have been easier for you to recognize us and to welcome us, being that our faces were on the screen for a couple weeks. We're also up front wearing collars, so we are the new people. But what about our guests who come to the church every weekend? They're coming from the heat of their lives, as it talked about for Abraham. These guys entered into Abraham's life in the heat of the day. Many people come here who are experiencing the heat of their lives. There's struggles, there's pain, there's loss. And they're coming here seeking rest and comfort. Many people are coming here every weekend for their first time in a long time, or maybe they've been here consistently for a while, but they don't feel welcome. They don't know if they belong here yet. Well, each of us has a responsibility to care for them. Everyone, as a member of the parish community, has been given the instruction and example by Christ of how we are meant to treat strangers and guests. And here at Holy Trinity, we're not talking about welcoming them necessarily into your own home, but your duty to welcome those coming through these doors into the Father's house, Abba Father's house, here. Yes, the parish hospitality team does an amazing job of this. That's their job. They've signed up to give service, to be able to invite the people coming through the door. But there's so many people coming here on weekends, they can't do it all. And we want to build a culture and a community here. And so each of us has an important role in making sure that everybody feels seen, known, and loved when they come through these doors. Making people seen can be feel seen can be as easy as saying, "It's good to see you this morning. Have a blessed day." It can be as simple as that. Making people feel known can be as easy as saying, "I've seen you around for a while, but I've never gotten to know your name." And then asking their name. Some of you might be resistant, being like, "Why would I learn their name? Because I'm going to forget it. I'm really bad with names, and so I'm going to forget it by next week, and I'm going to feel bad about that." I just want to dismiss that and say that the reality is it's this week that we're concerned about. It's this moment of people showing up, making it feel that they are known. I've learned a few tricks. Some others have learned tricks of how to remember names. And I'm not the greatest at it all the time, but it helps. And ultimately, as disciples of Christ, we're called to love our neighbors. We're called to serve as Jesus served. We're called to love everyone that we come in contact with. Not that they know our love for them necessarily, but that they know the love of the Father that we carry with us. They know the love that Jesus laid down his life on the cross for me and for you. It says in scriptures that we love because he first loved us. So we come, receive love, and we want to carry that to others. And so I know that you can do it. I know that you have done it with Father Michael and I being welcomed here just a few weeks ago. And so I encourage you today to just ask God to show you one person that you don't know, that he wants you to get to know. To see if you can go and say, "It's good to see you," or "I've seen you, but I don't know you. What's your name?" Or if you want to show love towards them, "How can I help you? How can I make you feel welcome? How can I serve you?" And if that frightens you, as it may, to go up to a stranger, to welcome a stranger, I encourage you to really ask the Lord in this Mass for the grace from the sacrament of the Eucharist to have the courage to do that, to have the courage to step out, to make people feel welcomed, so that this church, Holy Trinity Parish, will become a place where people can come to find rest, they can find comfort, and ultimately they can find Jesus Christ.